Hello, 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 people. Welcome back to another episode of the USL Show. We are back in what's going to be several times this week. This is going to be our first of three live shows coming to the channel, where we have this one. Then we're going to have Kit Season later on. And then next Friday, pregame, postgame, live from Portland, Maine, as they take on the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. I have already voluntold Ryan, Phil, and John that they have to stay on the pitch after the game as long as Bob Lilly still has his team in the team circle. So we'll see just how long it takes. Will we get kicked out of the stadium or will Bob Lilly? The answer is never Bob Lilly. Ryan, how are you?
Yeah, doing well. John and Phil will be headed up to Portland tomorrow, and my progress on packing is that I have located my suitcase.
Congratulations. I'm going to be having a great time. If you watched last year, I will be kind of producing from afar, but I'm super excited to see what all the content that comes out of it. So we have a whole lot of stuff to run over tonight. We have we have the calamity that was the Clamico up in Rhode Island. And we have a whole lot of other news to talk about as well, with Trevor James leaving Detroit City. So much to get through. But first, I want to go ahead and thank Josh, Dylan Reed, William Land, Sandy Lester, Ryan Smeltzer, Madcap Hill, Andrew Towsley, All the Hedgehog, Kunal Patel, MOS, NF Fresh, 30, Tim Knox, Rion Lacara, Stephen Howard, Jeremy Churchman, Alberto Aguilar, Noah Telford, Michael Fuchs, Joshua Duder, John Fuller, Christopher Cohen, Frank Anthony, John Hunt, and Harry Austin. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. Legitimately, without you, we would not be able to fund any of this trip for the guys. So you make a massive difference in letting us do what we want to do. If at any point in this it sounds like my voice is dying, it is. So I'm just going to rely on Ryan to carry the show tonight. So it's going to be a good time. Obviously, get any kind of comments and whatnot in. But I want to go ahead and start with an article that was by Alex Ashton, our very own Alex Ashton, League One updater, as you may know him. And you also may know him as, hey, isn't that the guy that talks about expansions a lot? Yes, he is. And he released his article talking about the teams that are upcoming and the teams that are projected to be happening. So I want to go ahead and run through the projected stuff or confirmed. So Boise is coming through, who they are, athletic club. We talked about their branding. Corpus Christi, they are still planning to be that Sharks thing. They're just Corpus Christi. Eugene is planning to come in. They actually have a primary investor that happened this week. Fort Lauderdale's coming in, and Fort Wayne. And you may have heard about it, the Cosmos, Sarasota Paradise. That is a lot of teams looking to join this year. We can talk a little bit more about projected later on, but what about these teams that we've already talked about between your Boise's, your Corpus Christi, Eugene, Fort Lauderdale, Fort Wayne, Cosmos, Sarasota? Who has you most excited right now?
I mean, you're obviously the big headliner is going to be the New York Cosmos, just having that brand coming into the league. But if you look at a few of the other teams that are joining in, Fort Lauderdale United had a very successful Super League campaign. You're bringing in Corpus Christi, you're bringing in Fort Wayne, teams who have had success within the USL 2 ranks, who have had success in other USL ventures here. And it's really good to kind of help fill out the map. I'm sure Naples is appreciative of having another team and a few other more teams in Florida. I'm sure Spokane is appreciative of having a team in Eugene as well. And even Madison and Omaha getting another team in the Midwest within Fort Wayne, I think is incredibly helpful to kind of just fill out the map. So it's incredibly exciting that the league is going to be growing from 14 teams this year to 21. It kind of reminds me of when I think it was, I want to say it was like 2019 for the USL Championship or 2018, where they added like 6 or 7 teams at a time. And it, like, honestly, it completely was a paradigm shifting move for the league, and it makes me very interested to see kind of what the next steps for League One is going to be as they make this very significant jump for the first time since they started the league back in 2019. Going up from 14 to 21 is now getting into the part where, okay, are we going to start looking at splitting the league up into 2 divisions, 2 conferences, if you will, or are we still going to be doing a single table and having an unbalanced schedule? But no, it's all incredibly exciting news just to have this all confirmed for 2026.
Yeah, and I believe I saw the number has jumped up to 21 or 25 teams going to be in League One next year, which is exciting. Soccer Enjoyers says glad USL League One's getting a bunch of new teams, which was a big issue for me. I was getting really concerned that sticking around that 12 to 14 mark was going to really hamper the league, but they have gone full gung ho in filling this out. And Ryan, you did confirm me, it is 21. So that's very exciting in of itself, seeing that we have some movement happening in that way. I think when you start looking at the 2027 and beyond, which Alex has laid out, I'm not going to give all of the info that's in here, but you should read it. But I'm going to read the names: Albany, AFC Ann Arbor, Annapolis Blues, Apatheos, Asheville City, Boston City, Dayton Dutch Lions, Dothan United, Erie Sports Center, Everett, Washington, Inter New Jersey, Lancaster, Modesto, Montgomery United, New Orleans, Pensacola, Peoria City, Real, Central New Jersey, Reno, Rochester, the one in Minnesota, Santa Rosa, Springfield, Wilmington, rest in peace, and Winter Garden. There's a lot of teams in there. I want to kind of just discuss a couple of things. Real Central New Jersey. We've talked to Ira Jersey before, and if you watch the Semi-Pro USL show, we did an interview with him, and that kind of fell off. But we'll talk about the USLW League champions in just a minute. But he confirmed that the women's team is going professional in the next couple of years, and he confirmed on the show. He said this might be breaking news, but the men's side will be going pro. He said that on air live. So that is that. Dothan United has very much been coming out strong, and Dothan's this little town in Alabama, very much same vibes as Statesboro, Georgia. And I want you to go watch their matches. They have so many people at those matches. They are rocking the stands out. It's awesome. Peoria City has been going through, I think they were the last year's semifinal or last year's runner-up in USL League 2. Montgomery United's mentioned. I think that's a little bit of a long stretch. This is just people in my kind of circle that are like in my areas, so I'm just kind of more versed with them. Asheville City is building their own stadium right now. That is going swimmingly. And they are a team that's been slated to make the jump for a long time. Apatheos, currently plays in former Silverback Park, which is really cool. A little bit of lower league history going on there. But I just did a whole lot of monologue. Ryan, what kind of stands out to you in those?
Well, I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say the Wilmington Hammerhead kits on the wall doesn't have me at least still very hopeful that they'll come back, but I'm not counting on that return to be anytime soon. Obviously, for a lot of these teams that are in 2027, we know from USL Pass that they love to just announce things and then say, we'll figure it out along the way and things will kind of fall into place. Well, like the Wilmington USL team was 3 apartments ago for me, just to kind of clarify how long ago that was for being announced. But seeing these other teams like Inter New Hampshire are being referenced as possibly rebranding, talking about Boston City wanting to partner with the NWSL team that's going into Boston, all of these other locations that are at least being thrown around as well. You talk about the Dayton Dutch Lions, who have a history with being in the USL Pro. You have all of these teams being mentioned. It's at least very exciting to see kind of where USL One wants to start placing their teams and what's kind of like is going to be the future footprint of this. Because once you're getting into 2027, we're starting to talk about teams who are joining USL when as of right now, they would be having Pro Rel either in year one of their operations or year two or around that point. We're operating under the assumption that Pro Rel is coming in 2028 or so.
Yep.
But it's interesting to see that these teams are wanting to get in at League One, and especially with some of these markets being sides that could very well find themselves wanting to move up. We mentioned New Orleans, and like that's a really major market that has an NFL team, that has an NBA team, that it would not be out of place if they decided we want to push for the championship as soon as we can. So it's really interesting to see kind of where all these teams are being placed, kind of what state they're willing to get ready in, because we've seen that some teams can ramp up very quickly and can get ready and have a team announced this year and start playing next season. And then we've seen some other teams where, to the betterment of that side, it took them a little ways to get there.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, we're going to have a team in 3 years from now. We want to build this right.
Yeah, I mean, we talked to someone from Santa Barbara a few weeks ago now, and we've been hearing about Santa Barbara what 4 years now, and it was next year. Just kidding, in a couple years, right? But they've been projecting long term, but we assume, and from what we've talked to them, they're going to do it right, and that's what you like to see. If you want to read more of Alex's stuff, he does more than just an expansion stuff, but there's a lot of good expansion talk in our Discord, in the USL Show Discord. We have the expansion slop kind of channel, and it's always funny just to see what little rumors get put in there, which it's all meaningless until it means something, of course. I want to talk about the champions that are coming out here, which is Utah United, really fast. Utah United take down the defending champions in NC Courage U23s. And it was shocking. It was a 4-0 win for Utah United. They end up getting Anna McKenzie. She gets the first goal, eventual game winner from Utah United Academy. And then it was Seven Costain, Lilia Blum, and then Ruby Haldek, which Seven Costain was incredible this year. She had 16 goals across the season, easily the golden boot for USLW League. She was absolutely stunning all year long, and I was a little bit hesitant on Utah United coming into the playoffs, to be completely honest with you, because the Mountain Division was frankly not very competitive. And so because of that, I just kind of wrote them off as big fish, small pond. But you take down what has been one of the best sides that USLW League has seen, which NC Courage. Are they as good as they were last year? Clearly not. They didn't repeat. But for Utah United to really only have Colorado Storm as being a rival in the division, it kind of shows how good Colorado Storm was. But to 4-0 the defending champions, that is something special for the first ever season that you have been in the W League.
I mean, this is a team that scored 70 goals across the entire season, including the playoffs, and conceded 1 goal the entire postseason as well. They never lost a game. They lost 1 game on the year, but they had a goals for, goal allowed margin of 70-6, which is just insane. For a team that would only end up playing about 14 games across the season. That's an insane margin that they had, and just kind of well done to Utah United on picking up the title this year.
Yeah, and then Ellie Walbrook ends up getting the MVP, where she was just awesome all year long. She popped up with a few goals, 5 goals throughout the season. And she kind of did a little bit of everything, because she also had 3 assists on the season as well. She gets 2 in this match. Well deserved. But again, this Utah team kind of came out of nowhere. It is so impressive what they had done this year. And it's not like they took down just a bunch of nobodies along the way. Like, they had a real deal schedule to come through here. I'm trying to pull it up here again. But, I mean, they took down the Minnesota Aurora, the only team to beat the Aurora this year In fact, I think they might have one of the only 2 goals scored on the Aurora this year. They win 1-0. They go through Stockton Cargo, who was awesome in the Northern California division. They go through FC Olympia, who was really doing it to the Pacific Northwest. They went through an absolute gauntlet of teams, arguably the best teams in the league between Stockton, between the Aurora, and then FC Courage. Not only did they win the championship, they had arguably the hardest path to the finals, and they came out relatively unscathed with winning it all.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly no easy task to get to this point, and then to do so in such dominating PSG-like fashion in a final was just incredibly impressive.
Yeah, so congratulations again to Utah United. We're going to be talking about the League Two final as it happens on later, where in Vermont, we've had Bernie Sanders out there talking to the team before the game. So, and if you have not been seeing the crowds from Vermont, I mean, it always makes headlines every year of like what's going on in Vermont, but like it's
If you've not been seeing
unbelievable.
the match day posters for Vermont, those have been fantastic. And honestly, they needed like I think it was like the Open Cup a few years ago, but like if they're selling those online as just like prints, I feel like those would be fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, how about we go over into the championship really quick, where we talk about Trevor James, who was the former head coach of Detroit City and then became the sporting director. And they end up parting ways. Now, one interesting little tidbit was put into our Discord where his wife did not step down from her position, which she is the VP of sports medicine, I do believe. And so she has not stepped down, at least according to the press report. So at the very least, the family's still on good terms with Detroit City. So this may be a personal reason. This may be just like it was time for me to retire. I'm tired. That could be all what it is. Maybe don't read into this too hard. But when you look at the guy who constructed this team to be as defensively solid as they were. Second half, Trevor James was a real thing. They'd be losing matches 1-2-0 and come back to win 3-2 because in the second half, they just turned it on for some reason. And then he ends up building a really solid roster as the sporting director. Hate to see him go if you're Detroit City, but I hope he's well, of course.
Yeah, I mean, this has been someone who's been instrumental in not just Detroit City as a football club, but in their move into the championship as well. He's been with the club since 2019, and it's just been someone who's just kind of been a key figure around this organization that when you thought of Detroit City, it was kind of someone who's been synonymous with the club, like a Bob Lilly has been with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds as well. So we hope everything is going all right for him. And I think Soccer Night in Detroit, you had mentioned it either in our Discord or on Reddit earlier today, but I think Detroit City is still a very attractive job to a sporting director. You have a really high ceiling for this team. It's laid a really good foundation. You have the stadium that's coming on its way with HOK as the architects for that stadium, someone who's built Camden Yards, for instance, but and this is still a more than a really impressive club to really go into and kind of build on that next step to make them that kind of perennial top team of the Eastern Conference, like we were used to seeing them last season, I believe. So this is still a very top job to look out for. And I believe Detroit will have no issues trying to fill this position.
No, and the one thing that you can do that you can't necessarily do everywhere is you can sell the fan base. Hey, man, like you're going to see crowds every single week, truly energetic and one of the best atmospheres that US soccer in general has to offer. You can sell that to a sporting director because you can sell that to the sporting director so he can sell that to the players, right? If you are looking at this, you are really thinking, hey, this is an easy place to recruit to in terms of do you want to play for big crowds, but maybe you're not that MLS level? This Detroit City is the place to go. But John Fuller puts an interesting question. Is Dane Dichio potentially on the chopping block? Obviously, Dichio was brought in by Trevor James. And now Soccer Nights and Burnt Soccer Night in Detroit says Dicchio's deal ends at the end of this year anyway. Quietly, right now, Detroit City has been arguably the worst team in the championship. When you watch this team, they're in a bad, bad spot. And do you think that Detroit City holds on and just lets the contract run out? Or do you think they try to make a change, especially now that a new sporting director is coming in to wholesale, let's try to fix this in the middle of the season?
Yeah, I mean, this Detroit team in the league right now has just one win since April. That was a 2-0 victory against Miami. I will say, I think we've mentioned it on the past. In that time, they had an incredibly long road trip, and we know how important playing at home is for Detroit City. So that undoubtedly played a role in them. But even since they've gotten back to playing at home these past two games, it was a 2-1 defeat against Hartford. They had a 0-0 draw against Pittsburgh, and then they'll have a chance to at least advance here in the Jägermeister Cup if they play against a team in Westchester who hasn't gotten a win in the group stage right now. So there is still at least a chance, depending on how the result plays out against Hartford and Rhode Island. But they're in the heart of a playoff race right now in the Eastern Conference. But like one defeat and they could find themselves already out of the playoff picture. If you're looking at Rhode Island down in 10th and then Pittsburgh up in 5th and 22nd with Detroit on 6th on 21 points. It's very tight right now. And if you're just looking ahead at Detroit's schedule of Rhode Island, Indy 11, and North Carolina, and Tampa Bay, those are teams around there where if you lose those, you're really losing a lot of ground on everyone else. So I think it wouldn't surprise me if they would make the change, but you would really want to wait for that sporting director to come in before you go ahead and make a decision. And if the contract is running out at the end of the year, it may be one where you just let it run out until the end of the season, wipe the slate clean, and start fresh in 2026.
Absolutely. You mentioned along the way through there, Westchester. Um, Spokane Velocity, before we move into League One, has had the unique experience of losing 2 straight matches 3-0, despite scoring 3 goals in the first of those matches. And if you're confused by that, Spokane Velocity had to forfeit their 3-2 victory over Westchester. And this one was interesting. You saw Javier Hill come onto the match, and then there was a long pause, and he was taken out of the game. Everybody was sort of speculating on what was going on. But if you look on the league roster, on the league website, he was listed as a sub. Apparently, just someone at Spokane just forgot to put in Javier Hill into the roster by the deadline. And so therefore he was not a viable sub. This is going to have a lot of ramifications, but I was kind of want to explain how this process works. And this is the way it was explained to me. So if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Up until 55 minutes before the match starts, you have to submit your final roster for that day. Obviously, you still have warm-ups after that period. If a player is injured or there's some kind of emergency, someone's having a family emergency, they're ill, there is an injury, you can remove that player from the roster and you can substitute them with a sub or someone who was entirely left off the 18 altogether. You can replace them, no penalty, and it doesn't count against as a substitute. That can happen after the 55-minute mark. But that is not what happened here. There was no injury for that Heel was replacing for. He was just left off. My understanding, I could be wrong, but this is what I was told, was that they included him. They sent him into the league office after the 55-minute mark and just kind of was like, oopsie daisy, put it in there like this. Sorry about it. So Opta, which has all the league stats and stuff, just submitted his name into the match day roster because Opta didn't have the ability to discern what's injury, what's not. It's a data website. And so that's why he was included, but he was included after that 55-minute mark and he was not replacing anybody, which is why he wasn't eligible. Some people are a little bit upset that Westchester went from losing that match to getting a 3-0 win, but according to the league rules, they did what had to be done, which was a 3-0 forfeit.
Yeah, and I was going back through some of the old, at least other subreddit ones. The most recent instance from Nicholas Murray's own research here was Sporting Kansas City 2 in 2021 had fielded a player who was supposed to be serving a suspension against Atlanta United 2, but it resulted in the same outcome. And then the other one where it actually did change the outcome was back in 2017 when the then Tulsa Roughnecks played an ineligible player against the Colorado Springs Switchbacks, which turned a 4-1 victory they had into a 3-0 victory with the Tulsa forfeit. So, it did entirely kind of flip that one. And it did actually remind me of at least an old historical result back in 2013, where the Wilmington Hammerheads actually had a similar instance as well for fielding an ineligible player that got them deducted a point, and they missed the playoffs by a single point that season. They would, if they had that point, they would have already lost on tiebreaker due to goal difference as well, which would have been by a single goal as well. But yeah, you mentioned just kind of like the ramifications of it. We're looking at a Spokane team who is currently top of League One at the moment. They haven't won any of their previous 3 games, but they're still currently atop the table. But if we're looking down towards the teams that are kind of at the kind of like in second, third, and fourth, you're looking at Chattanooga, Aviolta, and Charlotte on 27 and 26 points as well. This could be playing a role for at least seeding in later on in the season. I think all of us kind of imagine Spokane will be a playoff team at the end of the year, but if this is costing them home field advantage through the playoffs, this could be a very major change. And I know it wasn't the most, I guess, the best way that they wanted to earn it, but Westchester get their first win at home.
Yeah, good for Westchester, I guess. I think the more interesting side of this is on the bottom of the table, where there is a bit of a gap between them and Portland Hearts of Pine, 5 points, but that's still 5 points that they are ahead, where previously they would have been sitting in last place behind Union Omaha, behind Forward Madison. It makes it just that little bit harder for Union Omaha and Forward Madison to kick into gear. It gets them just a little bit closer to making the playoffs. And if you're Forward Madison and Union Omaha, I'd be kind of fuming right now. Like, our jobs just got harder for something that we could not control. And granted, you could say that that match was out of their hands entirely, but it doesn't really change the fact that Spokane won the match. And now they're having to deal with someone who's fighting them to get into the playoffs, getting a win when they literally did not deserve the win off the base of play.
And not just that, they were handed a 3-0 scoreline, which really improves their goal differential. You're looking at Forward Madison and Union Omaha this year, who do not have a win on the board by 3 goals or more.
Well, let's talk about Union Omaha a little bit as we go to League One. They lose 2-1 to South Georgia Tormenta, where Yannick Vizzini gets a brace. He was my preseason sneaky golden boot guy. I thought he was going to kind of come onto the scene. Hasn't fully worked out. I mean, he's been great so far, don't get me wrong. But Union Omaha is still kind of struggling to figure out who they are. They're getting goals from time to time, but they're not reliant on getting more than 2 goals. This is a Union Omaha team that when Tormenta got the second goal via Yannick Vizzini, you kind of assumed that the best that Omaha could do was getting a tie. You don't trust this Omaha team to get a third goal at this point. Is there something that you're seeing from Union Omaha that says maybe something's around the corner, or should we just be giving more flowers to Tormenta, who got a very big 2-1 win?
And this was Tormenta's first ever victory over Omaha ever. Like, I was backing Omaha to get a win in this series in my latest kind of odds article, but like One thing that Omaha has going for them is outside in league play, they still haven't been shut out in a match since May 3rd, and they have the ability to get into high scoring games. I know they had that 3-4 defeat against Richmond a few weeks ago, but they are at least able to generate a lot of chances, and you don't have that such a long scoring stretch without at least doing something right. But yeah, this is kind of really, I guess concerning from Omaha. They did get the 2-1 victory over Charlotte on July 12th. That was something that was delayed by weather after quite a while for that match. So it was won rather late in that evening. And then they have at least Texoma and El Paso in the Jägermeister Cup coming forward. But yeah, Spokane, Westchester, and Chattanooga is their next 3 games within the league. And 2 of those being the current top 2 teams in the league. And another one going basically someone who just earned a 3-0 victory in the midweek going head to head against you. Those are 3 games you can't really afford to slip up on.
And if I'm Union Omaha, you're kind of looking at Tormenta. You kind of forced Tormenta to change their game. Tormenta did not have the lion's share of possession. Union Omaha did. You massively outshoot Tormenta. You're looking at, I had it pulled up. You're looking at 19 shots to 10 shots. However, Tormenta had 4 on target. Omaha only had 3. What they're missing is that clinical striker in front of net, which they signed, Stefano Pino. If you're someone who just got a little bit of NASL whiplash, yeah, he's still around. He's coming from the 4th tier in Brazil, I believe, after playing for Birmingham Legion last year. But he's making his way out to Omaha now, and maybe he's what they need. Maybe he is just the clinical striker that can get in front of goal, jump up, get his head on the ball, do something. But it's not like they're not shooting. It's just they can't get anything on target. And until Pino is there playing and producing, I'm terrified for what lies ahead for this Union Omaha team because I just don't see them getting that conversion rate up.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to just follow this Union Omaha team as well. And if we're looking at it for just the interim manager in charge, like this is also an audition for the job, and it kind of is going to be an indictment on where does this Union Omaha project go after this season.
Well, talking about someone kind of getting it back together and also slightly falling apart, Greenville Triumph get a 2-0 win over Richmond Kickers. Richmond Kickers came out, and this season they just could not be stopped in terms of scoring goals. They weren't winning matches, but by God, could the Kickers score goals. Well, the Triumph shut up shop, and they get a 2-0 win with Chaparrera getting a penalty, and then later on, right back, Toby Sims. Yes, that Toby Sims gets a goal. But the more concerning part about this, are you ready for this? To Richmond's 6 shots. 6 shots. The Greenville Triumph. Wait, are you looking at it? Have you seen it? Yes. Okay. If for people who haven't, 27 shots by the Greenville Triumph. It is a
9 on target.
9 on target. It is an absolute turnstile for that Richmond back line. And you obviously have to look at James Snedden, who did as good of a job as you can being just shooting practice. But, like, if you're looking at Greenville, you're arguably saying it should have been a better win because we were able to get 27 shots away. And you're saying, great, our defense held them to only 6 shots all game. That's a very good attack in Richmond. But at this point, I am full-blown panicking over the Kickers. But I've been kind of sneakily confident in the Triumph all year long.
Yeah, and I'll walk back a few of at least stuff that I've said within my previous articles where I've said where I've been like concerned about Greenville. If there's any game that would alleviate any concern, it's this type of match where they were able to, like you said, generate 27 shots, 9 of which on target, and not hold a very high scoring, usually Richmond Kickers team to without a single shot on target. And the Greenville Triumph extend their unbeaten run against the Kickers right now to 8 matches in a row without losing to Richmond. The last time Richmond were able to beat the Greenville Triumph in a match, John Wick Chapter 4 was in theaters at the time. Sorry, I just watched that film lately.
Whoa.
But yeah, if there's a match to like really start to panic on the Richmond Kickers, it's probably going to be this one, as you see them now drop below Greenville in the table, as both teams are currently on the outside of the playoff picture at the moment. But yeah, this is at least looking rather worrisome, kind of moving ahead. And if you're looking back into the league, you have Naples and Portland as your next two games. Those are teams that you are looking up at the table right now.
Yeah, I just it's not like they started a bad team, the Richmond Kickers, in terms of their scoring. I mean, Fitch has been great over on the right-hand side. Chandler Dwyer always comes with a big goal. Emilio Terzaghi, I mean, he is the king for a reason. Joshua Kirkland is constantly doing backflips and celebrating goals. It's not like this was a bad offense. It's just could not get through this Greenville defense, which was their biggest failure spot earlier this year. Their midfield was borderline horrendous considering the players they had in place. It just was not performing. Now it is. There's midfield structure there. And now you're looking at a team in Greenville that is sitting a Chavarera, a Connor Evans in the middle of the pitch, and is able to really just kind of let them patrol the area and be a bit of a buffer zone between them and the back line is paid off dividends. I've been very impressed with what Greenville has been doing. We'll talk about what Andy put into in a second. I just want to quickly shout out One Knox getting a 3-1 win over AV Alta. I really don't want to talk about this one too much because we're running a little bit long, but they end up getting 2 goals in the last 10 minutes. Callum Johnson and Nicola Rosamalia gets the goal, and that was a fun win. AV Alta not really able to continue there, or say continue. They've been very, very good, but One Knox looked a little wounded at some points, and I thought maybe this was the match that AV Alta was going to be able to catch One Knox while they're down. Not so. Make it 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, One Knox have conceded just 12 goals in the league all year, and maybe it should have spoken to something when I saw going into this match that One Knoxville were still their usual favorites when playing at home. But I thought AV Alta entering this match, 10 matches in a row unbeaten across all competitions, that there could be some value in it. But no, this Knoxville team, they needed this performance really badly, and it puts them kind of at the top of that, I guess, middle of the pack of the playoffs right now. If you have that current top 4 who've broken away by at least 3 points or more compared to the rest of everyone else, being the top of that middle pack is a very good spot for One Knox to be in. And if we're just kind of looking ahead, after they play Chattanooga again in the Cup, they have 3 straight home games against Charlotte, Portland, and Omaha, where they could really be kind of racking up the points from those.
Well, I would like to go ahead and move on over to the championship, where let's talk about the calamity that was Clamico, where it's a 0-0 draw, but don't tell Siaha that. He was giving it large to the Rhode Island players, where it was fun. It was a fun match, way to put it on to CBS. And, you know, I understand it's a 0-0 draw. In theory, it was boring, but it was a fun match. You saw Rhode Island really go for it. Hartford kind of shut up shop and just said, we are not going to get scored on. Siaha saw 3 shots on target, saved them. You know, Hartford did their best to hold on to this match, and they did. They got a point out of it. First off, Ryan, what do you think about Siaha and what he did after the match, you know, just kind of giving it large, when not only did you keep your biggest rival scoreless away from home, but you're going to see them again next week at the same place.
Yeah, it's very weird with how we have scheduled the cup this season, where it seems like a lot of teams have these kind of back to backs against teams that they will just have played within the league. I think Pittsburgh and Loudoun had that earlier this season, but just I mean, a hell of a performance that Siaha had put in this previous weekend, and then just having that like intensity of the rivalry. I mean, there were over 10,000 fans in attendance for this game, and it will be interesting to see kind of how the performance is coming into this next Jägermeister weekend, which arguably is one of the matches of the weekend, as it will determine the group winner and if Hartford has the opportunity to advance if they somehow don't win this game. But yeah, I think we should at least address Andy's question within the chat on it's like, what's the line for Brendan Burke getting sacked? In the league right now, which I find very interesting for Hartford and across all competitions, they have just one defeat in their previous 5 games played. Yes, it was against the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and that is another team kind of at that end of the table right there. But yeah, I mean, they picked up a 3-0 victory over Loudoun United. They got a 2-1 win away at Detroit, and then got a 0-0 result with Rhode Island right now. Like, in a vacuum, that those are like really solid outcomes, but you do have to look at the table and say they're 5 points away from the playoff line. And then after this Rhode Island match, like they'll have New Mexico, Miami, and Birmingham as their next 3 games, those first 2 being at home. So yeah, it will be like really interesting to see like what they do with Burke. And honestly, if Hartford advance in the Jägermeister Cup, how much stock do they put into this cup competition as well?
I'm trying to pull this up because I wasn't exactly prepared for this question, but they have had a lot of coaches since 2020 or since 2021. Harry Watling, and then Ray Reed was the interim. Tab Ramos, oh yeah, baby, was Tab Ramos there. Omid Namazi, and then Brendan Burke, which Omid Namazi just took a head coaching job, DC Power, I believe. They have a lot of coaches that they owe money to.
Hartford Watford Athletic.
I mean, a little bit. The thing is that I don't know if they can afford to fire Brendan Burke. They were able to pull him away from an MLS job, an MLS assistant job, surely because they are paying him a healthy sum of money. They are on the books for at least 1 to 2, maybe all 4 of those, at least 1 to 2 of those coaches still. Maybe one of those are coming off. If they fire him, I don't know if they can truly afford that severance. That's going to be interesting to see. You mentioned Watford. I was thinking more Auburn Tigers, where do they just let him stay if he can beat Rhode Island? If he's there just to beat Rhode Island, does he get to keep his job? Because Hartford is thinking back into it, like you mentioned. But if they can beat the big rival, why not keep him around a little bit longer?
I do think he at least coaches out the remainder of this season. But if we're looking at it from a more wider perspective, Hartford has, I think, broader issues just with in terms of being the club than just having Brendan Burke. Because like it's the easy thing to do is just okay, we're gonna part ways with Burke. We'll eat the cost again, and then we'll try and find someone else. But you're looking at a Hartford team who haven't qualified for the playoffs in a non-COVID season in club history. Like we've seen talks about that earlier from other people within the fan base, from the supporters groups, on that weighs on a fan base to like go in and support week in and week out, year after year, and just not see any sort of progress being made on the pitch. And you look around this league and see how important that fans are to a team's success. New Mexico has one hell of a home field advantage, and you see that reflected on how well they play on the field. Louisville has one of the best supports within the league as well, and they repay that support by being one of the most competitive teams within the league. And they even saw that from their own rivals within Rhode Island, that they have a very good support in their own stadium that they just built. And you're going to look over your shoulder at Portland and see the support they're building up there as well. It's really difficult to like kind of look around and see, like, okay, everyone else around us is taking this seriously. When is this team going to take it just as seriously?
Well, it's hard to say they're not. And when we looked at the roster they built last year, it was incredible on paper. I feel like we've looked at a lot of really good on paper teams for Hartford. You look at some of the teams, the rosters they've put together, it has been great. It has been great. But something's wrong, right? Last year, they built a roster full of great talents, and several of them are known locker room cancers. There are very good players that were on that team last year that are no longer employed by anybody. And it's not because they're not good players. They took a risk. It didn't work. They've done this for years. I don't mean the locker room cancer part, but they swung big on players. They have tried really hard to get good players in Hartford, and the fans support them. Is it Bosnia? Is that what they are? No, it's not Bosnia, but Bonsai. Where? Oh my God, it starts with a B. Their supporters group.
The Bonanza, I think, was
Bonanza. The Bonsai is definitely different. That's definitely wrong. Bonanza. Thank you. Like they are awesome. They are awesome, and they're just not being rewarded. But it's not from a lack of effort from the front office. A part of me wonders if they have like a little bit of Seattle Mariners in them, where there is so much pressure to make the playoffs that it becomes an insurmountable mountain to climb, despite half of the league making it.
I mean, if we're looking at teams being able to rebound after either a dismal campaign or really turn around their fortunes, I mean, we talked about how much Loudon has been a surprise package this year. But honestly, if Miami is in the heart of a playoff race after putting it together one of the worst campaigns in league history, and they're 5 points right now above that Hartford team, really there shouldn't be any excuse for any team in this league to not be able to quickly make those turnarounds, provided that they make those good hires and they find a way to either moneyball their way into building a good roster or just spending the money to get that roster in place. Obviously, easier said than done. We talk about things are better on paper or playing it in Football Manager than it is playing it actually out on the field. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see kind of where Hartford go for another time after this season, because for as long as Brennan Burke has been at the club, you kind of have to wonder, is this like the end of the line for Burke, or not just within Hartford but within USL?
It's hard for me to imagine so, to be honest with him within the USL. He has made enough friends around this league for him to at least get assistant jobs. And somebody's going to believe in what he did with Colorado Springs, with what he did with the Bethlehem Seal. You see what he came through with that Philadelphia Union pipeline and what he was able to contribute to that. I think there's going to be teams that convince themselves of him, but it's going to be interesting because Rhode Island is going to be taking on this same Hartford team next week, same spot, this time for Jägermeister. By the way, if Hartford wins, they are into the playoffs. They will guarantee themselves a playoff spot via group positioning or by wild card. All it takes is a win in regulation. Hartford has it. If they can win in regulation, I believe that would also knock Rhode Island out of playoff contention if I'm looking at this right. So they have a chance to make the playoffs and knock their biggest rival out of it. I hate using this as quote unquote their Super Bowl, but if this isn't Hartford's Super Bowl, I do not know what is.
And I believe earlier this week, they have already at least done the draw for the quarterfinals, which I felt John had brought it up in his back six article this week, today. But I felt it was kind of weird to do the quarterfinal draw before we knew all the teams that were advancing. I would have saved it for once we confirmed everyone was in place, maybe this was at least just when we were able to get the Galazzo time. But yeah, it's interesting that they've already at least set the field, or at least the matchup pairing so far for what we're going to see in the quarterfinals.
I like to think it's so they don't get accused of rigging anything, because they totally didn't rig these big rivalry matchups to happen with Bluegrassico and Clamico. They didn't. No, they didn't do that.
I mean, they paired all the teams together geographically, and then you could set the schedule however you want. If you want to set these rivalry matchups to be the quote unquote deciding games at the end of the group stage, that would have been clear from when you made the schedule.
True. Well, you mentioned Loudon earlier. Phil has put out the DEFCON 5 on the Lads protocol on Blue Sky as they fall 2-0 to Oakland Roots. And don't look now, but don't let them Roots get hot. Nabil Hackshaw gets a goal, what looks like a horrific goal to score. He gets scored against, and then Peter Wilson not long afterward. Loudon didn't really look much like getting into this match. They were pretty even along the way. They were able to get shots on target, but in the end, they just did not take their chances. It is just, I don't know. Is this a Lads situation? Or is this just Oakland actually being good and doing what they do every year, which is backdoor their way into the playoffs?
We might very well be under kind of a Lads situation. If you're looking back through for Loudoun United, they haven't won a game since June 14th across any competitions within 90 minutes. Like, it's incredible like how they've started the year with the start that they had, that they've gone through this drought and they're still third in the Eastern Conference right now, but they've completely lost ground to the top two within the league, that they have fallen now 11 points behind Charleston. This is a massive gap that they have just to get to second. That what was the team like? I think we saw it from, I want to say it was Sacramento a few years ago, or it was New Mexico, where like we always assumed that they were in the postseason, but it like their form in the latter half of the year really fell off a cliff.
Oh, it was New Mexico, because they started off really high and we just kept calling them Paper Tigers for the entire year.
Yeah, and I feel like that's exactly what this is kind of going towards right now, where like they started off the year very strong, and they should make the playoffs. They're currently 9 points ahead of the playoff cut line. That it wouldn't shock me if they continue to kind of struggle or kind of like go back and forth upon results. But if you're looking at the next 4 games that Loudoun United have within the league, Tulsa, Rhode Island, Indy 11, and Charleston, yeah, that is 4 kind of challenging games to approach. And especially if you're going to Tulsa, going to Charleston, 2 places that are very tough to go to as an away team this season, we could be seeing this Loudoun United team quickly drop from 3rd place within the Eastern Conference. But to at least give the flowers to Benny Feilhaber's Oakland Roots, yeah, if we're looking at it, their previous 4 games played, they have won 3 of their last 4, and those last 3 victories have been win to nils, and they are now level on points with Orange County and are looking to be right back into a playoff spot.
I was corrected that DEFCON 5 is actually the best situation to be in. So if you're in the Lads protocol, if you are in Lads County, USA, you hope that you're in DEFCON 5. Apparently DEFCON 1 is like apocalyptic, which I didn't know. It felt like the higher the number, that's more severe. That's what they do with EF ratings for tornadoes. I don't know.
Perhaps we're going towards more of the naming convention of DEFCON 1, that if Loudoun United is winning the league, like the world is truly ending, where if they're falling behind, which is what we've seen Loudoun United struggle with in the past, where like, okay, this is back to the Loudoun we're used to. So I think we are still correct with going back to DEFCON 5. And it's like, okay, this is the Loudoun we remember from years past, whereas DEFCON 1 is, well, it's end of the world time.
I mean, I'm still heavily rooting for Loudon to be in the finals just because I just want the chaos. I just want to see someone, okay, like our good friend Evan Villela, just him getting the notification of Loudoun United's in the USL finals. I just want him to read that headline. I just want to get a video camera on him and let him read the headline, Loudoun United's in the USL final. I don't ask for much.
Who would be there, at least let's at least limit it to the 8 teams who are currently in the playoff picture right now for the Western Conference. Who would be the meme matchup if Loudoun makes the final?
I mean, a little bit of FC Tulsa. And I know they're currently in first in the West. Shout out to FC Tulsa. We haven't talked about them a whole lot, but that's still a little bit of FC Tulsa versus Loudoun in the USL final. Oakland, we get a little bit of Oakland in the chat. I kind of get it, but also Oakland is kind of, I don't know, at least they kind of are known as the t-shirt company at this point. I feel like they have a little bit more respect from the wider community than Loudoun. I feel like if you're talking about just wider respect from the USL community, I feel like it's kind of Tulsa and Loudoun together. I don't know.
I was going to propose Monterey Bay. Like if we had a Loudoun Monterey Bay final and Kelpie I think isn't it Kelpie is the mascot? Or could you imagine? Could you imagine the Seriously Loco episode we could get if Loudoun beat El Paso in the final?
Oh no. I'm just desperately wanting Kelpie in the final. I just need it. I need Kelpie in the final like I need air to breathe. I am full on Monterey Bay bandwagon until the end of the season. Get Kelpie to the final.
It can't happen next year, but if we can get a Moxie the Moose and Kelp meet matchup, just a photo, a meeting, have them meet at the owners' meetings that we always have in the winter.
Can we? Okay, so we mentioned USL All-Star game a couple weeks ago. Imagine if we go old NCAA football games and we get just mascots playing against each other.
Make it 5-a-side.
Oh gosh. What's the seal's name in Rhode Island? The seal has a name. The Hartford's thing has a name. I don't even know what it is. It's kind of like the Philly Fanatic, but it kind of freaks me out a little bit more. Moxie, Kelpie, the Pegasus down with the Trinity. Like, give me a USL mascot. Sealy, thank you. I need a USL mascots. Like, at least put them all on for the USL Championship final at halftime. Let them be the halftime entertainment. I just need it.
Pete the Pelican for Tampa Bay, Kickaroo for Richmond.
Bolt, bring Bolt back. I just need it. I need everything about that. Let the mascots play against the kids. Somebody, apparently Sealy was wrong, but give me the little kids versus mascots, and having some mascot 2 foot, some poor 12-year-old who's just trying to have a good time.
This is also a wider call to action from the USL show that if you don't have a mascot for your team, what are you doing?
At the very least, have the idea for a mascot, but pay someone to do it. I would like to see the Rowdies. Like, what would a rowdy even be? Would it just be some guy in a really cool mustache just walking around the stadium?
That's just Purdue Pete.
He takes off the hi-hat, puts on some sunglasses, and that's the Rowdy. Well, we got one last match to talk about. Two mascotless teams, I do believe, and that is Birmingham Legion versus Colorado Springs, where the defending champions get it done at Protective Stadium thanks to a very late goal. I just want to give a shout out to Michael Micheletto, who gets the game winner in this one. It starts off pretty rough for Colorado Springs. They weren't able to really get their foot into the match, but then they remembered that pressing is fun. and they completely shut down what Legion have to do. They weathered the storm just a little bit, but I think it was a great showing for Colorado Springs, who desperately needed a result. And you are, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to find something real quick, but yeah, like Colorado Springs, who are like, it's a very weird spot to be in. Like we're looking at it within both the championship and League One, with both their defending champions are currently at the bottom of their respective league or their respective conference. And this was something that the Switchbacks desperately needed to get a result. If you're scrolling back through, just they haven't won a league match away from home since March. That 3-2 victory against Indy 11, and when it's so crucial on how well Colorado Springs played last year at home to not pick up results away from home, that was something that has been severely lacking within this team. And this is still a Colorado Springs Switchbacks team that has been more often than not involved in games under 2.5 goals, that it's a very low scoring Colorado Switchbacks team. But I definitely want to get your perspective, kind of where, like, how was your kind of Birmingham Legion reaction to all of this?
I don't know. It was one of the worst performances I've seen from Birmingham in a while. Went from probably the best and taking down North Carolina FC, and then just had no control in the midfield, could not string together passes, and it was only after the second half started where it felt like they were even really trying again. So I don't know. It was a hard watch, and I think it led to a couple players getting yanked off the field and other players getting some playing time, and things kind of smoothed out for about 10 minutes. So maybe you're going to see some more wholesale changes going into a League One match versus Ford Madison this upcoming week in Jägermeister, which, by the way, has two current Legion players on that Ford Madison team, with Timmy Areku and Luca Dorado, both on loan from Birmingham. So they're going to know how Legion play or want to play. So we'll see. We'll see how that ends up going. But if Birmingham win that match in regulation, they are also into the Jägermeister Cup playoffs. So it is a massive match that they can't overlook a Ford Madison team. But just got to wash this one off. It was a horrible match.
Yeah, and just looking ahead for Birmingham's next 3 games within the league, it's an away trip to Phoenix. Then you have Hartford and Pittsburgh back-to-back at home. Like, to Birmingham's credit, they are still within a playoff picture right now. They're level on points with Miami. But as it's kind of lining up, if we're going to at least kind of play out the rest of the year, the penultimate match of the season is Birmingham hosting Miami, which could very well be a determining factor on who gets that kind of final spot within the playoffs, especially if that game, between Birmingham and Miami is sandwiched between playing both Carolina teams as well.
Yeah. You had mascot suggestion for Birmingham.
I put 2 within the chat. The first one was kind of an easy one within, I guess, West Ham's mascot would kind of fit the Irons, if you will. These are at least kind of fine to at least share with on broadcast. But the second one I liked a little better, which was a small mascot from Motherwell, which is a team I became pretty fond of in Scotland. So, yeah, West Ham's mascot could kind of fit for the Legion. I like that one better for the Scottish club, though. I have seen this mascot in person, though, so I can attest that it is real.
That's awesome. Get him slightly decorated or changed up to look vaguely like Vulcan, but in black and gold. That's incredible. Chip is apparently the Sill. And I do remember that. That is right. That is Chip for Rhode Island. Somebody from Rhode Island's listening to this. Like, how dare you not know about Chip? Put respect on his name.
Is this the first mention of Motherwell on the USL podcasts. It may not have been because I recall talking about them when I was there in 2018 studying abroad. But reach out to the club and see if we can get the mascot on loan.
Guys, we have a great idea. Just trust me.
That'll be our next that'll be our next big project for the USL show next year. If we can get a club to convince to send another mascot out on loan.
What God, that would have been such an early years Ford Madison promo. We got the Bubbles from West Ham. The Bubbles from West Ham are making an appearance.
I mean, we're giving out great marketing material. It reminds me of it was a scene from that old Will Ferrell, or I don't want to say old, that Will Ferrell movie Semi-Pro, when they acquired Woody Harrelson's character by trading him for trading the washing machines for that player.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We're kind of into the end of the show, so now we're just kind of waffling along. There's a sports YouTuber who's definitely taken very strong influence from John Boys, and I think it's Hayden, Hydn, and he's been putting together incredible documentaries, some long form, some shorter form, but one of them was about the football player who never existed. Some guy stole the identity of a really famous, oh my gosh, what the name? Harvard, a really famous Harvard or Princeton player, and convinced the guy in the NFL to give him a job because he was convincing them that he was that guy. And after the team realized that he was a fake, they ended up going along and trading him to the Green Bay Packers, I do believe. And then they traded him for like $3. Like they just gave him just like a little bit of cash. And they're just like, here you go. Here's this guy. And they were like, and Green Bay was sat there and was just basically like, yeah, we are just we're realizing that this is not quite the guy that we thought it was. You lied to us. And the other team, I think it was the Chicago Bears, was just basically like, oh, it was a prank. You got. We'll send you your $3 back. And that's just kind of how they did business back then. So
it always reminds me of, I think, it's happened before in Major League Baseball, but when a player would be traded for a player to be named later, I think there was one time where the player to be named later was the original player that was traded. So they basically just sent a guy out on loan and they got him back.
My favorite is cash considerations. I love seeing the baseball card mock-up of just the dude holding money, and that's just cash considerations. Always makes me laugh. Gets me every time.
I think a few years ago, the Portland Trailblazers, they had drafted a player, traded him, and got cash considerations back. But they didn't even do the player. They just put it was the usual the Hollywood fake money, but they put it in the knapsack bag that had the dollar bill sign on it, and then put him in a press conference in front of a fake mic, and it was just I'm ready to work, Portland. I'm gonna help the team.
See, that's what I need. I need more USL teams to do that. Whenever they say we transferred a guy for an undisclosed amount of money, I need them to drop a just giant money bag on the table and just be like, this is formerly known as Ajuberry.
Or not to reference Semi-Pro again, if we're gonna go 2 for 2, the big check. I want to see a USL club walk out and it's just yeah, this is the payment we got. I want to have those big, the publisher clearinghouse, the big check that they got for this.
And it just says undisclosed. It just still says undisclosed fee. That's awesome. Yeah, we got don't forget predictions. I gotta be honest, totally forgot about predictions this week. Completely forgot to even say that we're doing them. I've been forgetting them these last few weeks because we've just been running long. So probably no predictions this week on air. We'll probably send some out before everybody goes to Portland. Who knows? Maybe they'll even record their predictions live before the game, just because I don't think any other matches happen before that. I don't know. No promises, but yeah, I kind of forgot about this week. So in terms of don't forget the predictions, I forgot the predictions. So, any kind of final thoughts for you, Ryan?
Yeah, if we're going still with other, I guess films that we have watched lately, I finally caught The Ballad of Wallace Island, which was a really delightful, kind of just really wholesome film about. It was a just really fun concept and talked about kind of. I think you'd appreciate this. It talked about the role music played in one person's life. That it was a really just kind of pleasant watch. So would recommend. It's on. I want to say Peacock.
Very cool. What was it again? What's the name of it called?
The Ballad of Wallace Island.
The Ballad of Wallace Island. Cool. Um, yeah, so for me, it is just I have so much just teacher meetings to go to. It's ridiculous. It's like 8 to 4 the next 2 days of just sitting through meetings that are just basically like, if you see a masked gunman, don't let them inside. Like, all right, thanks. And it's about to be like just 2 straight days of that. And I'm just not looking forward to it. I want to see what I can do just to make the time pass by. If you're my employer, I promise I'm taking actual notes on what you're saying. I pinky promise. But
Yeah, we'll miss having you up in Portland.
yeah, I'm starting to get to the point where maybe people may just not know that I exist. Because like, weren't you supposed to be in Oakland and Portland? One of these days, I'll be somewhere.
I've met you
One
in
of the
person in Birmingham. It just wasn't at a soccer match. So I do
true.
can attest that you are a real individual.
I do exist. I promise. Now, Mr. Alan Underwood, we don't have confirmation on yet. So we'll see. Well, yeah, I think that's about it. Join in to the live show on Friday before the game, after the match. It's going to be really exciting. We're going to have a whole lot of content coming out from that. You're going to enjoy it. We're excited. I'm excited to live vicariously through you guys. So be there. Check it out. Again, thanks to our patrons and the people who bought the USL Show kit. I've been getting pictures of people showing those off, and it's just really exciting to see everybody get their kits. So thank you to all the people that bought those. It seriously helped us get there. So thank you so much. But for the first and final time tonight, here is the aforementioned Alan Underwood.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show.
The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see everyone again next time.